actually was called and asked yesterday to attend a meeting with Mr. Simons and the mayor of McCaysville and the mayor of Morganton with the gentleman from the casino.
Can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that. And a lot of times I don't realize you can't hear me. We do have a lengthy meeting. I do want to get started. As I said, I was asked by Mike Hamby to be at a meeting with Mr. Simons, the commissioner, with the mayor of Morganton and the mayor of McCaysville at 12 o'clock today. So I really want to try to move this meeting along. I know we've got a lot of things. I don't want to miss anything in our meeting either. So when you're, we need to kind of be prepared to move forward quickly. It's an important meeting. It's the gentleman from the casino in Murphy, and I know all of y'all have heard me say time and time again my concerns with what the casino in Murphy is going to do that could be detrimental, but I'm also concerned with what positive effects it could have as far as job creation and things like that. So I want to make sure that I don't miss out on hearing any opportunity that can benefit somebody in this community. So please, forgive me for needing to get out of here, but I really want to make sure I make every effort to make that happen too. So we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. Can I get a motion to call the meeting to order?
Motion to call the meeting to order.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Approved minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes? And are those September the 2nd or September the 9th? Does she have the 9th typed up?
They're the same.
Okay. Do we have September 9th at this point? It would really be nice if we could get those pretty quickly after the meeting, so if there's any differences, we would know. So, does anybody have any questions about the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the September 2nd workshop minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? We have old business zoning board recommendation. The Blue Ridge Mayor and Council members, it's to them from the Blue Ridge Municipal Planning Commission. The Blue Ridge Municipal Planning Commission held a public hearing on August the 19th, 2014. The hearing was conducted in order to hear the request of Christy Petrillo to rezone 0.74 acres located on 80th Street from its present zoning category of R2 medium density residential to C2 general commercial. The Planning Commission recommendation is to deny the request, and that is signed by Mr. Parsons.
I'll make a motion that we go along with their recommendation and deny the request.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to deny the request. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay, I want a roll call vote on that because I missed hands there. Harold, how was your vote?
To approve their recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Angie?
Approve the recommendation.
Bruce?
Approve the recommendation.
Rhonda?
I'm abstaining as I have a financial interest in the property next door.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Okay. Christy Petrillo. Hey, Christy, do you want to come up and, I don't know if that microphone's on. Will you check and see?
Hello again. I think I was up here last month, and what I would like to do is propose adding a proposed use to the zoning ordinance book. And what I would like to do is adding a Truckee School as a proposed use. When we met with the zoning board, every member of the zoning board said they would like to find a way to make it work. I guess you can't do, I don't know what to call anymore, you can't do variances anymore or something to that effect.
Special use.
Special use. But they all said they'd like a way to make it work. They just didn't want the most drastic commercial use to go in that spot. But everyone loved the idea of what was there now, would like to see it stay there. So what I'd like to do is add a proposed use in the zoning board, in the zoning book of track meet school, and let it be acceptable in the R2, which is what I'm in. And so what I've been told I have to do is you guys have to make a recommendation for the zoning committee to review that, and then you would then get their recommendation back to you again and see what their recommendation is, and then at that point you could vote on it. So I'm asking if you can make a recommendation for the zoning committee to hear my proposal.
And I'm going to apologize, Christie. I may have said the wrong words. I need to look that up and see. And
I think we both
I
know what
will
you're
do
talking
that. So
about,
we kind of all know what the gist
Sure.
of that is. But
Yep.
anyway, I will make sure that's the correct terminology or
That's okay.
whatever.
So what I'm asking from the commissioners is if you can ask the zoning commission to take a look at it, at the proposed use, and at the feasibility of adding it to the zoning book.
That, I guess that would add it to any residential in the city.
No, you have the option of, they can add it to R1, R2, R3, commercial, they could decide where they want to add it to. And then they would give their recommendation back to you, and then you could decide if you wanted to make a recommendation or not.
I have a question. Once the commercial was voted on, is it not correct, because I think that there was a discussion that nothing else could be done to that property for a year? Was I mistaken on that?
No, that's true, but I think it was,
As far as rezoning, and I'm not asking it to be
Okay.
rezoned.
that is,
I'm asking it to remain the same and remain R2.
And Roy is our zoning expert. And any question I have, I go to him and I get his guidance. So can we get him to come out of his office? He may want to go out the back door instead of come out and talk to us. Can you restate?
Sure, to restate the question, right. As far as zoning goes, once you apply for rezoning, you're not allowed to apply for another year. In my case, I'm not asking for rezoning. I'm asking to keep it the same that it is. So the question is am I allowed to know that?
You're allowed to ask the city council, yes.
Yes,
The one-year term
only goes for rezoning.
pertains to a denial of rezoning.
That was Rodney's question. So did that answer it? Do you
Yes.
have another question? Do you have something else, Sandy?
I'm just saying that when you start changing ordinances like that, y'all need to be really aware that y'all might be opening a whole can of worms down the future. And, you know, I'm not against the trapeze school. It just doesn't need to be on a residential lot with residential people surrounding it.
Well, neither
And-
does the big piece of property that was just leveled that's next door to you, and that's gonna be commercial too.
If they get commercial, you say that, okay? If they get commercial, because Mr. Loving's house was
Right.
residential. So,
But I think that's why it's going to a zoning committee, who then has to discuss it and determine what their determination is. And then once, from there, there's not any guarantees, then it has to come back to the commissioners, and the commissioners have to approve it too, or the city council. So I think that, you know, there's a process that's involved, and it's not just a free for all.
And I do understand your concerns, and I think that the entire council does too, Sandy, and I think that was the reason Rodney asked his question, because he wanted to make sure that we got expert advice.
And keep in mind too, you know, when I do talk with the zoning board about it, you know, I'm going to take everyone's concerns into consideration. And I'm going to make sure that, you know, if we do this, and I try to do this, I want to make sure that it allows for ample parking, off-street parking, that it's not going to affect, you know, city parking or traffic or anything like that. But I think that it at least is
How do you enforce
worth the
that?
consideration and worth them looking at.
that's why I'm here.
Mayor, any request from the city council would be to the planning commission. And someone with the city council would have permission to request to the planning commission that they consider amending the ordinance and speak on behalf of the council. Ms. Petrillo would not be speaking on behalf of the city council at that hearing if you choose to proceed with amending the ordinance.
Okay.
So she may have some input about parking, this type of thing. But if you want to amend the ordinance to allow anything in any zone, then the recommendation has to come from the council and representative of the council speaking on behalf of the city to make the proposal to the planning commission. The private sector can't make a recommendation on their, by themselves to amend the city ordinance. It has to come from the city council.
Okay, thank you, Roy. I did remember that, but, I know this has been going on for a while. I'm not sure how comfortable the council is with the decision, or if they need time, or if they want to table until our next meeting, or if they, I'm not sure. So I kind of need some feedback from council members. Harold, do you have a comment or concern?
At this time, I'm just not comfortable with it.
Angie?
I don't think we can start changing ordinances for, I mean, if we do it for one person, we gotta do it for anybody that asks. That's a huge can of worms.
Bruce?
I don't have a problem with it, but again, I do have a financial interest in that property next door, so I really don't feel comfortable at this point.
Is it possible to ask that you table it until the rezoning of the adjacent property comes up?
Well, I don't think any kind of motion is going to be made actually at this point, unless you're comfortable with going ahead and.
Is there any harm in seeing what their recommendation would be? Because you can always, hear their recommendation and then decide to go with it or not.
You can always bring it back before the council at any time. You know, you can come back and request next month if you want to. You know what I'm saying? So you can come back
Yeah.
at a later time.
I mean, and I can, I've been doing that, but I'd love for you to at least let them hear it and then hear what they have to say about it. And there's nothing that says you have to agree with whatever they come back with.
Y'all, I think y'all really need to think about what it may open. I mean, it's not just this, it's everything down the line. And y'all need to think long and hard about that.
You know, we've done this in the past for people, of course, East Main Street right now, there's one building that has, we've done the same thing before in the past. And I think it just sold, but, you know, I think if you look at each property individually, that's, you know, that's what you have to do.
There's such a limited amount of R2 property. I mean, we're not talking about a huge area here, and it's, my property adjoins the city parking lot on one side, and now we're gonna have a central business district on the other, and now we're gonna have, supposedly this new development catty corner from it. I mean, I just think it's at least worth a look and consideration.
Well, there's other things to consider. 80th Street is a narrow street, and there's a lot of traffic already as it is out residential,
I
and
agree.
adding commercial to that.
I actually have to say that us being there is probably the best thing for 80th Street, and I can say I'm guilty of this. I used to fly down 80th Street. People coming down that hill, coming into town, used to fly down 80th Street. Now that we're there, if we're there and we're outside on the trapeze, everybody, all of a sudden, brakes go on, and everybody slowly comes in town. I think it actually had a positive impact instead of a negative one.
It's a residential lot. It's a residential lot.
That adjoins commercial property, and therefore it's always gonna have the ability.
It's a residential lot. It's
You know what, and
R2.
so was the lot next to it, and so was the lot next to it, and they all got rezoned. Your property's gonna be next to commercial on two sides of it. Potentially, if you ever want to rezone yours, you're gonna have that option.
Well, that is something that we'll have to consider, though. When do we stop encroaching on residential? Where it is very small, it's a small town, it's always been a small town, residential primarily.
Sure.
you know, the growth has came, but does that mean we gotta keep
Yeah, living
pressing
in-
in residential?
Living in downtown, and you choose to live amongst businesses. If you're living downtown, you're choosing to live in downtown. We have a huge county that if you wanted to not be around businesses, there are plenty of places that you can live. But if you choose to live downtown, you're choosing to live in conjunction with businesses. That's part of the attraction of living downtown. Be able
Chrissy,
to walk
the-
places.
Christie,
Wait,
the
wait just a minute,
residential,
Sandy.
okay.
I'm gonna say something. You're both very passionate about your property. The council is also very passionate about the city and the properties too. This is not a discussion that just started this morning. This is something that we've all seen, we've all viewed, we've all looked at. I'm gonna go ahead and call for a vote. We know it's residential, we know the planning commission recommendation, we've already voted on that piece of it. This piece only says that you have to keep coming back, Christie. And I'm sorry for the inconvenience for you, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience for Sandy. And I understand both, but rather than going on
There's
and
only
on.
one person who has protested this. And all the other neighbors, I mean, you can, and I encourage you, please go talk to the other neighbors, because they all say, we don't have a problem with truck fees, we love it. My neighbors across the street trim their bush up so they can sit on their front porch and watch it. They love it. They all just said they didn't want it to go commercial because they were afraid that there would be a funeral home or a car wash or some other preposterous thing that really is never gonna happen. But every one of them, even all the zoning members, said, we want to see this happen. It's a great thing for Blue Ridge. It's such an attraction.
And I don't even think it's only just your lot. I think they're afraid about the continuation of it down the street. So I am going to go ahead and call for a vote. No disrespect to either one of you ladies. It's just that we have a lot on the agenda today. The council has been out there. They have viewed it. They've discussed it with Roy. I think they put a lot of time into it. If they're comfortable making a vote, you know, I don't know how they're going to vote, but I'm going to call for a vote. And then either way, you still have the opportunity to come back. But, you know, I think we know both sides. I don't think that anything's been left out, and I really don't think there's any more you can add. I think they know. So, do I have a motion of some type?
I'll make the motion that we do not send this to the planning commission for a change request.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, all opposed? And is yours an abstain, Rhonda? Okay, thank you. East Main Street paving specs, Mike Hampton and Greg Hood. Greg, I saw you somewhere. And Mike's here. Mike, I didn't see you come in, sorry about that. Do y'all want to do this together or separately, or?
Mike's going to present what the proposals that
Where are you?
This is just a general plan, sort of get us oriented on
New
this
business?
Main Street.
Oh, see y'all.
Generally, what we've been doing is looking at total replacement of pavement and curb and gutter, with the exception of possibly some pavement up at the angled parking area just north of Depot Street on the left as you go down. We might be able to do some milling there and save some of that pavement. So we're going from Depot Street all the way down to Messer Street, total of about 900 feet more or less. From Carter Street to Messer Street is about 300 feet, and then Depot Street to Carter is about 600 feet, so it's twice the length of Carter down to Messer. Now, as far as specifications, we'll need to make sure that, you know, that's sort of what we had in mind as far as
going back in, I guess just pretty much the way it is with a few changes in drainage and so forth. That would have to be done. As far as an approximate cost, I believe Bill got a cost from Johnson Paving, from Carter Street to Messer Street.
Yeah, they had sent a bid probably, if y'all requested it about 2 months ago, maybe. And it was between 70 and 72,000 for that section.
Okay.
And that's-
Can't hear him. I
that's-
can't hear Bill.
Can you turn the microphone on?
Talking numbers.
Is between $70,000 and $72,000 from Carter Street to Messer Street. And that's including the replacement of the sidewalks and all the paving, taking it out, and putting it back.
So,
Do
go ahead.
you remember how many feet that was?
No, I sure don't.
And I want to say something right there too, Mike, and I think I've posed this question to a couple other people. You and I both are aware there's a lot of storm drain issues. That quote was without replacing storm drain and things like that, so the city council needs to be prepared for unexpected expenses underneath that dirt and that pavement.
That's true.
And those will be quite expensive. That's big pipe, and it's expensive.
Yeah, you never know exactly what you're gonna get into until you dig into it and have to look at it. You can't see it from the top of the ground.
And that's what happened down the street, and I'm sure the pipe was put in on that entire street. We had buildings that had water going into them, we had sewage issues, so it's continued up. I'm sure there's the same, I would think that pipe's the same age, wouldn't you, Bill? So I think that was about $20,000 or something like that. Didn't we have something? I'd have to pull that and look, but it was pretty expensive. And we had another drain issue right there at Messer Street that was, flooding out. So I want the council to be aware that number does not include unforeseen things under the ground. It could be sewer, it's gonna be storm drain, we know that, that's a given. And we have sewer issues there too. We know that, so be prepared.
Yeah, and that's from Carter down to Messer, and it is around 370,000. So we've got an additional 600 feet from Carter up to Depot. So you multiply that by 2 and add the 3 together, you're looking at about 210,000 plus for the total project. That's just a rough guess.
And if we replaced all the storm drains down through there,
260 with all of them, maybe
Yeah,
$50,000-$60,000.
Right.
If you have to replace the sewer too, you're looking at a sewer
We're good on
problems.
sanitary sewer. We replaced that.
We still have some
We still have
problems.
some problem.
We still have some
Well,
problems.
I know we got a problem there with the harbors, that drainage.
We worked on a couple of problems there, so there's going to be some money have to be spent there too. I think there was a problem with the line up the, I'm not going to speculate.
I don't know, I haven't heard anything from Danny since then, but they.
I have.
Have, okay.
No.
They did go in and change over the one that they said was the last one that was on it. So
They've changed 3 now, I don't know if you realize that. They've changed 3 since that started, and so we know there's a problem. So just be prepared. We're talking 250, 260, best case scenario, I think. If we're lucky.
As I understand it, the city personnel would be doing the connections between the buildings and the sewer in case of interference of some kind with the repaving and that kind of stuff. So Bill said, they'd work with the contractor at that particular time to make it go smooth.
And I think that would be great, and Shannon's actually here, right? The only concern I guess I would have, and I don't know if Shannon wants to make a comment, we're not overstaffed by no means with his department. We have lots of old lines out there, and we're seeing a lot of problems with those old lines. As you know, with the couple of big leaks we had last year. And I think Tim and Shannon are going to talk a little bit about that. So I don't think that's, Shannon, pipe in if I'm wrong, I don't think that's a problem. I just hope we have the manpower to do it. Is that an accurate statement, Shannon? Okay, thank you.
I just happen to think I've got one other little handout that shows a typical cross-section across the street with the curb and gutter in it. We were concerned about when we had to excavate and install the curb and gutter that we might have to go so deep that it would interfere with some of the existing infrastructure. But it turns out we're only going to have to drop it maybe about a foot at the most, hopefully, which should give us plenty of cover over the existing sanitary sewer that was just installed a few years ago.
Mike, I know you haven't been privy to a lot of the meetings. One of the discussions has been about trying to do this with GDOT funding, the length of time. I know Streetscape 2, I was actually involved from the beginning to the end. It went very smooth. They were in and out within their time frame, but they had one change order, maybe two change orders, but they weren't, they were storm drain, of course. But our concern was trying to do this with GDOT money and the expense it would cost to have those plans drawn up again. And you've seen the plans, I think, that Jay Benson did. I think our quote for that was $40-something thousand to redo those. So, you know, we're trying to eliminate some of those costs by being able to use our city engineer and being able to do it with the city forces and to do it in a short time frame, which is the important part too. One of my concerns is I know the easements were probably done at the time Jay Benson did some of the engineering. I was always told that they were done. I know there is a problem with the easements on the property, which is the building where the fudge shop and the train is actually has their gift shop right now. And you and I have discussed how that property line lays and the issue with the drive coming through there. There is, the council has to make a decision at this point, I think, before this project is done as to, are we closing the drive or are we keeping the drive? We own part of the parking places, or half of the parking places, and they own half. And I think you're the one that showed me where the pins were, and that's a true statement. We own half, they own half. Do you think that that is a decision that needs to be made in conjunction with this before we proceed forward? Because it's going to change the entire layout right there.
That's correct.
That could add a lot of money or take a lot of money out of it. And there needs to be some kind of uniform sidewalk or something to protect pedestrians through there. Or either we've got parking places and we let people still cross. We have a gentleman that owns a piece of property there that owns up to the street where the deck is in that grassy area. You actually showed me where the pin was. I think you came out and helped me find that. He's not going to be happy with us. We know that, and I'm really sorry. You know, unfortunately, we have to do things we don't mean to make people unhappy, but we have to try to do the best we can. So I really think you need some direction from the council in that area, what their intention is. Is it for pedestrians through the depot up to that street? Is it sidewalk, or are you continuing to leave parking places? And if that's not a concern for you or Greg, let me know, but it's a concern for me, so.
Now, when you say parking places, I'm a little bit confused. Because where the line runs now, where it's been laid out by the surveyor that did the survey for those people, I believe every bit of that parking is on their side of the property line.
No, all of it. When you found the pin up there in that little building, you know, that little circle?
Yeah.
If you take that pin and you look at the one down there, I think there was a trade on some property there at the building where Seabolts is, it goes to that corner.
The city sold the concrete
Mhm.
area in front of the building years ago.
We don't own a lot of the parking place, but we own back through it. I mean, they'd have to have really short cars to fit in their space.
Okay, that little concrete square that Bill was talking about,
Mhm.
that the city gave, deeded to other people, that corner, as it's shown on the plat, would be on the east side of that square, concrete area,
Well,
which is now got a roof over it and some posts sticking up.
Mhm.
So if you'll go to that very first post, on the corner post, right there is where that iron pin is supposed to be, which would basically take in all of that parking area. But we can look at that to be sure.
Yeah, maybe the drawing Jay Benson did actually pull, I don't think so. I think there's still a piece of it there,
Okay.
but maybe I'm wrong, you know. I mean,
We can look
I
at
looked
that
at
to be
it
sure.
numerous times. I mean, we went down and visited it, and, you know, there's got to be a decision made on, is there a road, is there not a road?
Right. We've also got a drainage problem down through there too, because I believe the stormwater off the street goes down into the area there where those buildings are.
Mhm.
Uh,
It does.
and
It's
gives them
flooded
a
those
problem.
buildings several times. They
What we can
actually,
do there is just put a longitudinal drain in, one of those continuous drains like you see on DOT, where you've got driveways and stuff coming into DOT, highways and that kind of stuff.
and I do think those are where we have the easement issues. I don't think those are recorded in front of those buildings. They could not be found at the courthouse unless
Oh,
somebody
yeah,
has
I
them.
never could find a written easement.
Mhm.
I would call that a prescriptive easement because it had been used by the public for years and years and years to come out of the depot area to get up on East Main.
Well, when we didn't have a lot of traffic on that road, it was okay, but there's a lot of traffic now. It's kind of dangerous.
It doesn't seem like it would make sense to let traffic come up through there right offhand. But pedestrians, yes, because they need that to get from the depot from the train up to East Main, basically. That's a basic alley for their travel way.
Well, because our bathrooms are there too, you know, the train can hold 350 people, I think, at any time at any of their scheduled loadings. I think it's 350, it may be 500 people. Thank you, Doug, 500 people. You know, when you've got 500 people around those bathrooms and gathering there waiting on the train to come, you've got a potential for somebody to get run over. So that's council decision. That's something that I hope the council takes a real serious look at and gives Mike and Greg some direction as to what to do there. I guess we need to do that in a vote probably by Tuesday.
As far as specifications, Greg's been working on the specifications, and we've already got quite a few developed. I think one of the big differences on the specifications is that the ones we're looking at call for like a 5-inch asphalt layer on top of an 8-inch crushed stone layer. I don't think we had that when Johnson did that job down there between Messer and Mount Street. I'm not sure how much he put on it. So, you know, that could add to the cost too, so. we might-
If they done it right.
And that's why the specifications are really important. We have discussed that several times. Any of those need
You got a
type
vested interest in
of
that.
asphalt, that's something we've run into a couple of times. The mix, learned a lot more about asphalt than I ever thought I'd need to know.
And another thing I think is real important on this project, when the contractor starts, is having an inspector on.
I think so too.
To make sure that the contractor is complying with all of our specs, otherwise, you know.
Well, you know, Greg is doing our consulting for us, and so I do think that, you know, he would be available, I would hope, during the whole process and get who he needs at what time. I assume that. So for any kind of inspections or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. I noticed on the job that Johnson did, we got a few places where the pavement's not completely, not the pavement, but the sidewalks. It's not completely flush with like meter boxes and that kind of thing. Got a little bit of difference there. It's a tow truck is what it is.
Carving the street.
They did some of the sidewalks were actually done by the building owners too, down through there, so, you know, we have some steep inclines.
Yeah.
Uh, Tipton did some of it, John Swab did some of it, and I think the guy that built the Oyster Building, didn't they get somebody to do some sidewalks there too? So I think it's a combination of different people, and, you know.
Well, that would be a good thing for Greg, he could coordinate all that stuff, make sure everything's flush, we don't have any tow trippers or high buildings in the city.
Yeah, and we've got some issues up the street, and that's something that Shannon's actually been working on, is getting some different meter boxes that are flush. We've got some that aren't, and Shannon and I, or Bill and I, was it me and you and Shannon, or was it just me?
You, Randy, and myself.
Me and you and Randy looked at those several weeks ago, and I think Bill ordered some boxes. So they're changing out some of those. So I'm glad you pointed that out too.
And another important thing is trying to be ADA compliant for all construction. because
Very important.
It could come back to, get us a problem.
So to keep this thing going, then is there any way that you can get what we need for that parking or that private property, the one we're talking about here in front of? Can we get something to see what the city does have
Sure. Yeah.
versus what they, and then we can make the decision how we would need to do that then?
Yes.
If you could get that as quick as possible. And thank you for doing this on such quick notice. And Bill, thank you for taking initiative to get it ready for us by this
Glad
meeting.
to do it.
Yes, thank you.
And I want to add something else. I had a discussion with Mike. I know our last meeting, there was conversation about our engineer. Mike's been our engineer for a long time. Mike is very familiar with where things are in the city, what has happened. He has done an awesome job for us. I had been trying to contact Mike, and Bill Sowers had been trying to contact Mike, and we both had the wrong number somehow. We don't know what happened. He did not quit us. He did not leave us out to dry. And we've had conversations about this street numerous times, and, you know, he's looked at anything and everything we've asked him to. I think just recently there was a valve issue with our new water project, and they had to go find Mike to show us where the valve is. Our guys, nobody was familiar with the valve, but Mike knew where it was. So he is very, very beneficial to us. So I do appreciate it, and he did not fall down on his duties. It was lack of phone. I finally got him at home. He's not home much, so I did get the home number right. I had it right.
I think the big problem was I changed my number. So the number in the book's not right anymore, but I'm gonna get that new number too.
Yeah.
In fact, it's on one of those sheets, that last sheet down the bottom.
Well, I think I finally got it, because
Yeah,
I
you
finally got a hold of
got
it. You know,
You got it.
the lady I talked to finally convinced me I was calling the wrong number. She finally answered the phone. Yeah. So I think that was a miscommunication thing, so I hope it was no bad reflection on Mike. He's done a wonderful job for us, and I appreciate him, so.
Well, I
Thank you.
appreciate you saying.
Anytime I've ever called him and ever needed anything, he's been there, so. Okay, so does everybody know what they need to do to be able to come back and vote? Okay. All right. Greg, do you have anything you want to add to that, on that piece?
Just that, you know, we had submitted for GDOT's LMIG, Local Maintenance Improvement Grant, last year to do West First Street, and then in last month's meeting, I believe, we decided to try and use that on East Main, and we found out we could also get 2015 LMIG money to put with it, to put toward that. So the total that we are going to get from GDOT that should go toward that, do you want me to talk about those totals, or?
quickly.
Okay.
Sorry.
$55,415 is what would come from GDOT, and there would be a $16,624 match. So you're looking at roughly $72,040 to spend toward paving, that you would be spending anyway.
And then Alicia says we've got $264,000 in SPOS.
And I don't think we've paid for trackside yet. I know I was asked about that the other day.
Well, she said there's no outstanding, she just told me there's no outstanding.
Trackside was paid, we have to pay for it.
So we've not been billed yet.
They haven't
Okay.
billed us yet.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Donna, what are you gonna vote on Tuesday night on this project? Where are you going with this?
Well, if they want to go, you know, there was a conversation about only going down, I believe, 3 inches in the beginning with Wesley Duval, Greg, is that right? Do they like the recommendations Mike has made? Do they want to go out and view anything? What do they want to change? Do they want to leave the parking places, you know, I mean, they can't move forward unless the council tells them exactly what they want. And in a few minutes, one of the things that's going to come up is the day of service that was donated to us, and I think Cindy's going to go just briefly touch on some of the things that came out of that that were really cool. And so it's some things to think about that could even be added on East First if we're wanting to do some green space and things like that.
So basically proceed with this project.
Yeah, they're going to hear a little more, so they need to bring their ideals back, give them a checklist and say, here's what we want done, go down a foot or go down 3 inches, don't fix this, fix that. Here's, you know, here's how far we can go. We're not comfortable, we don't have enough money, we have $260,000, as Angie said. You know, how much do you want to keep for an emergency on another road? We've had to tear up roads, unfortunately, with emergencies. So, you know, what are you comfortable in spending every penny? Or, you know, all those things. Thanks for the question, though.
I got a question. After all this is done, is that gonna develop a format for a contract to be led on this with public bidding
There'll be specifications and everything.
and public bidding?
Mhm. And I might didn't walk out the door. Mike's not through. And Mr. Ryan is here. This is conversation we've wanted to have for a while. So, do we have a motion that anybody wants to make, or do you want to table it or anything until the next meeting? Or okay, can you do that?
We table East Main Street paving specs until next meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Stormwater drainage, Mr. Ryan, Davey Haid, and Al Deemer, city shop, all of those places have terrible flooding problems, and that's Mike to take a look at it. We've had some other flooding issues that he's looked at. Some of them, you know, can be, but he has a solution for this. Mr. Ryan has been, he might have to invest in a boat if we don't do something to fix his problem. He's expressed his concerns several times, and hopefully there can be enough discussion that we can move forward with doing. This is another one of those things that we have to come from lost. It's storm drain. You know, this is an expense that, you know, we're either going to flood everybody out, so we got to have enough money to do this one too. So that's another piece of it. You know, how much money do you spend where? So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, we've had a preliminary investigation of the drinking problem. I think one of the main things we've got, first let me say this, from the railroad track all the way to Mountain Street all the way down Mason's property.
Sir, could you speak up? I'm a little hard of hearing, and that's a good microphone there.
Yeah, I was saying that if you start out there at the railroad track, from there all the way down, it's about a 5-foot diameter corrugated metal pipe, except down at Rhonda's business. And for some reason, they put in a 4-foot diameter pipe there. So that's definitely a bottleneck. That pipe needs to be either replaced or we could add another pipe to it to increase its capacity. I think we definitely need to start there. And then the other option, if that doesn't do the job, would be to add some more pipe from Mountain Street north, down by the Mason property, where they sell the jacuzzis, or they used to, and that kind of thing. So I think it's a matter of capacity. We just need to have more capacity down there.
Well, I did a survey yesterday. I started at the spa place and went down to the city, I guess that's the building construction building down there, wherever the repair shop.
Yeah.
And I went through there, and there are at least 5 different size pipe connections. Some of them going God only knows where. One of them is in the middle of the, used to be the gasoline storage office.
That's
Right? There's one in the backyard there that's open, a big hole is open in the yard, and the box culvert that starts down by the co-op runs to that middle of the yard, and then it's open, and then somebody in their infinite wisdom put another drain, a black 10-inch drain up in the parking lot, and ran it into the hole, and then on the other side, there's about a 3-foot corrugated metal pipe that runs to I don't know where. From that point on, the kudzu took over, and I tried to find a way to get through all of that. There is absolutely no way that system can stay the way it is without being completely redone. Because I have no idea where those tanks in relationship to the backyard are, to those water pipes that go underneath there. Because there's a sewer manhole on the next property over just behind the blue tank. What's that? I have no idea. And then when it gets down on what's his name, McClure's property, I couldn't get in there, I don't know where that was, but then when it gets down to the old cement plant, you can't find a stream down there. The next time you find a stream is when you get down to the city building where their shop is. You can, I think that man was there with me yesterday, you can just barely see it if you look down there, and there's plenty of depth there and plenty of drainage there. But the rest of it is just a jigsaw puzzle of pipes that somebody decided to put in whenever they felt like putting them in. And I don't see that getting rectified with all the water that's coming off of Cook Street, coming down my property, running through the culvert that Mr. Green, the mayor, put 2 new pipes in there 8 years ago to enlarge that, to dump into a hole on the other side that I don't know if that was ever straightened out of capacity. I don't think you had anything to do with any of this, but I'm just saying that's the way it looks. It looks like a major project to catch that water, because I think the water you're talking about up on East Main Street ends up down there too, doesn't it?
That is correct.
Yeah. So all the water that goes out of this city goes through that hodgepodge of boxes down there to eventually, I guess, go under 515 and then down, eventually go into the river.
Yeah.
So you're saying if we start at where my business is located, the area that the city owns, if we start there with that big hole, and the water it gushes out and literally floods that every time.
Okay.
So, and I do have pictures and video,
Okay.
but if we start there, you're saying that should help just kind of correct everything.
That seems to be the worst section.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a comment about that.
Line.
The co-op, we lost $5,000 worth of feed a couple of months ago. We were knee-deep in water.
Yeah, that's.
This is our second
I thought
time.
about that.
This is our
I
second
forgot to
time
mention
that we've lost over $5,000 worth of feed. We have our materials, our product up on pallets this deep down there to keep from losing it again. We couldn't afford it the first time. We sure couldn't afford it the second time. But we're involved in it too.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
think
not just the drain water, it's the water that comes down from Davis Street off the top and all that too. We get, the last big rain, we had water better than shin deep in our front of the building.
In front of my building, it was this deep, how's that?
I don't don't know if Kelsey shared any of the photos. I had a lot of photos after that last rain when Kenny had called me about the co-op getting flooded out. I had those, there was a council meeting that I wasn't able to attend, and I had asked Roy to talk about storm drainage and to have the photos, and they were from Country Stitches there in front of that building, over in front of the Dynasty building, all in front of Brown's Feed and Seed, and down through the other street. I mean, we have other issues, other storm drains. You and I both know that we've looked at too many of them. That's where you have to decide what can you fix, you know, we don't have unlimited funds. We fixed a lot of stuff over the years. There's still a lot to fix, and, you know, it's always going to be continuous. But, you know, these people, they're losing inventory. I know Kenny said it made it it was a hardship on the co-op. Mr. Ryan, you know, it's been in your back door, I think, at some point.
Yeah, the last time it was as high as the barricade going across that stops you from falling into the stream. So that's at least 3 foot above the sidewalk, at least 3 foot.
Well, I would like to say too, I think what Mr. Queen's talking about there with the co-op, I have seen that too. Water's coming off of Davis Street, off of East 2nd, and there's no drainage system, there are no sidewalks, and we have a lot of foot traffic down there. I never realized the amount of foot traffic until had my business down there, and a lot of people walk. There are no safe sidewalks down there. There's no drainage, and we need to really look at that part of town because. As our study predicted with 2020, they're predicting growth to go that way. And so we've really got to look at that and figure out a viable plan for that area. So, I mean, you know, as Angie was saying, you don't want commercial going into residential, but that's the logical progression for commercial growth. And we've got to look at that. Even Roy has said that himself, haven't you, Roy? We've got to start looking at a plan to get sidewalks in place. We've got to get drainage systems in place and get prepared for that.
It would seem to me it's a responsibility of the city to the people who pay the taxes to have the services rendered to them. If that requires the city to go out and get a bond to do this kind of work and encumber us taxpayers with it, I guess that's what you have to do. You can't keep going along piecemeal day in and day out and hope that that it won't happen again. I heard this was the 100-year flood. I've had 500-year floods down there. And after Cook Street went in, it's even gotten worse.
Hopefully Mr. Hampton can help us with all this.
And you know, I will have to say, some of the information I was giving Mr. Ryan that I gave to you, you know, wasn't, Mike's information is more accurate. I mean, it is a floodplain, but there's another issue that's even creating that floodplain to be a bigger problem than what it would normally be, so.
Well, there's numerous problems along that way of the water going down to the river, but what I'm concerned about is even if you opened a ditch and cleared it all out and opened it up to the end and somehow or another put some rock or something in there, it would be better than what's there right now. I have a picture, if you'd like to see what that connection looks like in the backyard of her property. It's a raw hole in the ground with 2 pipes that almost meet. They don't meet.
We see that's the way it used to be. It was an open ditch down through there. And all these private property owners have decided they wanted to pipe that to give them more parking area, etc. And they were just sort of it was left up to them as to what size pipe they wanted to put in themselves because they paid for it. And I guess it wasn't really coordinated with the city. And that's the reason we've got what we've got down here.
That was then, this is now.
I know.
And times change, and everything has to come up to speed.
I'm just giving you the history on the
You talked about sidewalks before. Do they have a standard for sidewalks in the city of Blue Ridge? You said one building owner put in a sidewalk, another one put in a sidewalk, this one put in. Is there an in-place plan as to what a sidewalk is supposed to look like when it's built?
We have those now, yes.
Now, yeah, but I'm saying when they put them in, did they submit a design and say, this is what I'm gonna do?
Right.
They didn't, did they?
Probably not.
Of course they did.
I don't think, I think even with Mr. Schwab's building there, I don't think there was, Anyway, hopefully that answered some of your questions. There does need to be a plan in place. There was an ordinance that I believe Roy, I think it was a sample ordinance about some issues with stormwater that he had suggested we take a look at and maybe do adopt, some rules and regulations. So that was passed out to the council, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, that last rain. That needs to be visited. There needs to be some serious thought put into it. I would like to share a copy of that with Mike Hampton too, and get his thought on what we're looking at doing. Of course, we're having more and more construction in town. There's more paved parking lots. There's more green space that's been ate up by buildings. So we're going to have continual issues with that. But we have to be on top of it too. You're right, it is the council's responsibility, so.
I mean, you have a sheet water situation here that every time you take away a piece of grass and put in concrete, the water goes somewhere else. I mean, it's just a natural thing, and it's all downhill. I mean, it's all gonna end up down the bottom somewhere. But apparently there's a choke in it, and the choke needs to be let loose until you can repair it.
I don't think I think it's gonna be continual work. I don't think, this will fix this problem, but we still need to look at all the other areas. This doesn't need to end once this problem's resolved. It needs to be ongoing.
Whole city probably.
But now, he's been here twice now. We know we've got a problem in his place all the way down, so why can't we get a plan in place to fix at least that?
I think that's what
Mr. Hampton
the
said.
process that we're trying to do.
So-
And I think that's why Roy gave you a storm drain ordinance to review. And
That's
Yeah,
totally.
Mike's first
needs to be.
recommendation, well, Angie, Mike's first recommendation was to fix down at the building where I am. He said that would be your first.
Well,
because
he's
that's-
flooding up.
We'll be
Park-
first.
That's what he's
That's
saying,
because
it all
of what's
runs down
bottlenecking
there, it all congregates, comes down. and
Wait
ends
just a
up
minute,
on
Rhonda. Let me
the-
let Mike
your way back
restate.
to the city.
wait
Yes.
just a minute. Excuse me, you're both out of order. Mike, would you restate that so maybe she'll understand it this time?
Well, yeah, anything that happens downstream will have an effect on the upstream, in most cases.
Upstream will affect downstream.
If we could relieve that one pipe down there that's too small, I think it would improve the upstream too. Whether it improves it sufficiently, that's another question, but it would help it some.
And then maybe putting a drain in there coming off of the, what was that street there by the co-op, around the co-op?
Davis?
Yeah, maybe putting a drain there, connecting then into it or something, so that all that water don't go into them.
It's very simple. You take one row of parking spaces behind the co-op. Take out one row of parking spaces back there. And put the big enough down through there to do it.
Well, Mike had suggested that, but he also even suggested to me on the phone, in my conversation on my trip, even putting 2 pipes in possibly. That was another conversation, to give some excess for extra water.
Yeah, we could double the pipe size by placing another pipe of the same size and maybe with different characteristics that would carry more flow. Smoother on the inside. That corrugated pipe is not smooth on the inside. You can replace it with a pipe that is smooth. And I'm not sure how much, without doing calculations, how much more water it would, capacity it would have, it might be twice the capacity. In other words, a 5 foot with a smooth flow might carry more water than the corrugated 5 foot. It's not the smooth flow. So you could
Is it as much
virtually
as
increase
twice?
it 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got a lot less friction with the smooth inside.
Yeah, I need that. Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, I went down there and crawled into that box culvert, the one that goes into that pipe, and took pictures of it. I have pictures of it going into that connection down on that other pipe. That box culvert is clean. There's nothing inside it. The last big flood we had in June, we lost all of our garbage, timbers. God only knows what went out of that yard. Where is it? It had to go somewhere.
It ends up in my parking lot.
But
Yeah, I will tell you exactly where it is because I have to pick it up.
But if
It comes out of the water and it literally, from behind the co-op, comes up and comes out that big pipe and it ends up out there in my parking lot. and I have to pick it up. So that's where it's going, and
But
that's
the
where it's
corrugated pipe,
bottlenecking.
if you put corrugated pipe in, instead of ending up in your parking lot, it's gonna plug up in the corrugated pipe, and they're not gonna have any access to it. I mean, right now, it's the only reason that it opens up is there's open spots every couple hundred feet where people didn't put in culvert. And then you have the culvert going across your property, and somebody put that, who put that black drain in there?
I'm not sure.
It's there new, it's not old, it's from the parking lot down into
Oh,
your
that,
property.
yeah, they put that in to help.
Who's they?
Actually, David and Alvin put that in because it was in conjunction with the city, because we were getting so much water coming out that it was, you can see where it's causing that pipe to start popping up because the water, the pressure's so bad.
That's why you take that row of parking spaces, you make that an open ditch down through there, poured, you watered, you got no stopping up, it'll carry.
I say let's let the engineer decide what we do and go from there. That would be my recommendation to this council, to let's follow the recommendations of the engineer and see what, Mr. Hampton obviously has a degree in this, and hopefully he would give us a good recommendation as to how we should move forward. Okay. So with that, I'll make the motion.
Wait just a minute before you make a motion. I have a question. Mike, can you possibly have by next Tuesday night's meeting a plan with maybe, if you want to talk to these two gentlemen and go down there, I don't care. We want it resolved with maybe. I'm sorry. Yeah. Could you have it by next Tuesday with a plan to overcompensate, because we're going to have more issues, that it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. And maybe even an expense as to what it would cost to do this, so that we have some idea. As you heard earlier, we're looking at spending everything we have on one street, which is a very important street. Every street in the city is very important. I don't want to take anything away from any of them, but that's been our problem the 4.5 years I've been here, trying to decide how much money we have to be able to do the things that we need to do. I think even before that 4 years, I think Rodney faced the same thing. Picking what's necessary, what has to be done. There's just not enough to always go around. So, although East Main Street is, it's
6 of them down there.
this is important too. We can't flood out businesses. So we got to figure out how to divvy it up, what we can do, what we can't do. So,
I'll make the motion, we table until next Tuesday, and you can come up.
My question was, can he do that by next Tuesday? Is that reasonable to ask that be done in that time frame? I don't know.
I think so.
Okay, all right, so y'all heard that, so,
I'll make the motion, we table until Tuesday's meeting.
okay.
And I have one question to clarify. Where is the water going? Where is the water going? The drains, is it going out and, which way is it going?
This direction, it goes north. Everything goes north.
Everything in City of Blue Ridge goes that way.
Okay, well, that's why I was saying he's got a problem there. I was saying, start there, go down. You said start at your place.
He says to start at my place.
That's where the volume.
Everybody says that.
That's gonna correct his issue then, starting at her place.
I don't know if it's
Let me
gonna
say,
come
why don't we
correct.
walk that so maybe you'll understand
Prove
it?
it.
If you have a pipe this big and you go to.
I understand
You can't force
that.
back.
I'm just saying, he's got an issue. I think we need to fix all the issues.
That's-
That's what I'm saying.
That's what they're.
That's
all
what
asking
he
you
is
to do.
saying, he is wanting to
That's
do.
what
Well, I misunderstood, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to get clarification.
Okay,
He
that's
wants
what
it
they're
to
all
not
trying to do.
bother.
Okay.
I agree with Mr. Hampton on where he's.
Yeah, and I do too. I just
And I think,
didn't
Kenny,
understand.
do you
To
agree with the
start,
same
where
thing
he
too?
needs to
Right.
start.
That's a start?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been in this
Let's just
mess
say one
for
of
years,
the
I know what it is.
things we need to do. I think with that, though, you get the most bang for your buck. Let's put it that way.
Came Bob Green, went down there, cut that
That's
street,
section
put a big
from-
pipe in, did a lot of work to help us.
So rather than going in and taking up the whole thing,
that
just
kid.
you're gonna start, so we're hoping that that will fix it. If that fix it, if it does it, then you continue on and,
That's correct.
okay, makes sense. Thank
exactly.
you.
Okay.
Concrete.
And
That's not
another-
gonna fix all the stormwater problems. Okay. Yeah, okay, so.
Another thing I was gonna mention on that is that I had Jim Robinson actually walk through the, starting there at Mountain Street going north, and he found a lot of sections where there was debris in there about that deep in the bottom. So it would behoove us to get that cleaned out if we possibly could.
They do that all the time. They've done it numerous times since I've been here. I mean, Mr. Ryan calls and that's the first thing they do is go clean it out. There was a sofa in there at one time, I think, wasn't there, Mr. Ryan?
But the whole thing is a downstream issue. You don't go in behind the kudzu where there's other pipes that back the water up further. Once it gets off of Rhonda's property, it's in a conduit, right?
Which is
Where does
actually
that
the
conduit
city's
end?
property, let me add, that's that city parking lot.
I mean, that
But,
conduit
yeah.
ends somewhere, then I went down behind McClure's property. I don't know if it's in a conduit there or not, but I know it opens in a big box culvert way down by the concrete plant. There's a huge walk-in box culvert down. I don't know what comes out of that.
Yeah.
It could be a coal bunker for all I know.
Right offhand, I think if we could get the water down that far, then they would have it.
Well, then it would take,
We wouldn't have to
it
worry
would
about
take, but you,
Then they'd be coming up
Exactly.
here complaining.
just a point of information, all of that water has been redirected to accommodate the property owners of those properties from whenever they bought them. The concrete plant redirected that water to the front. It comes almost up to the driveway that goes down into the Blue Ridge place and then goes downstream. Then it goes back towards the railroad tracks again, so it gets around the Blue Ridge City building and goes down into that deep ravine. So this has been all done over the years. People have put this water to accommodate themselves. It's not something that was a set plan, say, let's run everything alongside the railroad track on the right of way and take it down there, and that would have been all done. But no, they didn't do that. Everybody's done whatever they felt like doing.
Yeah, well, like Mike
Everybody
said,
but
it used
us.
to be
We still have an open ditch.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
You didn't have any
That's
problems
what was
with
there
that
for
open
years.
ditch, did you, when it was
No.
an
What?
open ditch? You didn't have any problems with that?
No, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, when Mason put that, that 5-foot culvert in there, pipe, that's when we started having problems.
Mm, well,
Right after that, anyway. It's a combination of several sections that are giving us problems.
I mean, Bo Chance had the same problem at his property across from my property,
Yeah.
where he had to build a swimming pool basement so that the water wouldn't come in and fill his basement up every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the problem's existed for a long, long time.
Yeah, he had a leaky storm drain pipe there that was going right into his
Right.
basement.
So, I mean, it's,
We worked on that, since the city did.
And we've worked on that since I've been here too. That was a big undertaking. You know, we put in a big pipe for that. That was an expensive pipe.
I think we got that solved, so that's good.
Okay, shall I make my motion again?
We have a motion on the table to have a second. Do I have all in favor?
what's a motion?
It's table this till Tuesday, when
Oh,
you can
okay.
come up with figures.
Yeah, and that'll be at 6 o'clock Tuesday night, so. Okay, Mountain Regional Library System, we have a request for an increase of the yearly donation, and let me get back on track here as to where that's at. I believe the request is from $6,500 to $8,450, and I know there was some discussion at the last meeting about the amount. I think I had mentioned that to Ms. Kiker, and Claire explained to me the way their year falls, it falls different than ours, and they bill us quarterly, so that was cleared up. And I think she said they had gotten with Alicia on that, so our donation has been $6,500 for the last 2 or maybe 3 years. 2 at least. Yeah, 2 years. And so their request is a 30% increase for 2015. $8,450.
Yeah, and I have to refresh my memory. What was the reason for that? I mean, are y'all losing some funding?
As Ms. Wagner said, our fiscal year is July 1st because we're on this part of the state system. So at our July board meeting, we needed to ask for increased funding to be able to keep our 48 hours of what we were going to have to close. So our main funding source is the county. We were asking them for a 30% increase. So we decided it was only fair to ask the board decided it was only fair to ask all of our funding agencies for a 30% increase. We are very appreciative of the significant increase that, that Blue Ridge has shown its support by. The 20,000 additional that the county commissioners agreed to give us is through the end of the year. So the county has to do its budget for next year, and we won't know until I think the beginning of December what their funding is gonna be for next year. So that's why we've asked all funding agencies for a 30% increase. And we don't know yet for next year what our hours are gonna look like, unfortunately. We get funding from federal, state, county, and Morganton and Kaysville and Blue Ridge. So you guys have done a significant increase over the past 2 years. So, and we're very appreciative of that. Does that clear what you're asking? Does anybody else have any questions?
We have not, the lady that does our budget here is Alicia Stewart, and she just had a little boy a couple of weeks earlier than she planned to even, and we've not even looked at our budget, so I think that would, maybe the council would want to consider letting Alicia look at the budget first, or if they're comfortable with voting on it, I have no problem with that, so just throwing that out there. She's been out for several weeks due to that. So where your comfort level is.
I personally prefer to consult with Alicia.
Do
Personally,
you want to put that in motion?
I make the motion that we hold off, we table this until we're able to consult with Alicia. This matter.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? And I'll give this to Alicia Claire, and she'll see, and come back with a recommendation for us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Fannin Probation Department, Ms. Weaver had came to our last council meeting and explained the way her probation department works. I don't know if anybody had any questions. There's no cost to us. They have helped us with a couple of small projects. They did do a great job for us. Just not sure, hadn't heard any feedback from anybody. The probation department we use now, the employees come out of Young Harris and Blairsville. The employees would be Fannin County employees pretty much. Their office is here in town, I believe. It's right here in town. I do know that one of the things she said that they would assign an employee to the workers that the city would have. They would also have their meetings at their office if they wanted to, or they could do it at City Hall as Sentinel does. So, they're very accommodating, whatever
The
we would.
information she presented, I thought it made logical sense. Do that. Judge Weaver?
Don't most of those people work on weekends usually? Work during the week?
No, and it's even a big, and like Larry Larry Clement does a lot of the probation. The ones he brought us on the weekends, and he brought some during the week. They only came, 4 or 5 different times, but a couple of them worked through the week. So they accommodate whatever they need to. The problem with community service people that want to work on the weekends, if they answer to an employee such as Shannon, I think some of the community service people answer to him or to Bill. Bill's not here on Saturday and Sunday. Shannon's not here on Saturday and Sunday. It kind of takes the responsibility off of our guys, and somebody else is making sure they're doing a community service and that it's just not getting signed off on.
And Judge Weaver did say they would coordinate the times and the places and everything, so we wouldn't have to be concerned with that.
I just thought most of them always worked on the weekend.
Now the Sentinel does not come down and work with the community service people. They don't come down and make sure they have somebody that oversees the, Bill would give a list to a Larry Clement. It probably won't be Larry, but whoever Judge Weaver assigns to the city of Blue Ridge, or I would give a list, or y'all would send in a list of the things that you think need to be done. And as they have people on community service and need to fill those hours, they would be assigned to those tasks.
You're probably thinking of what the county has done for like the county guard. I know they do it on weekends.
Trash on 5 and all over the county, you know, they did all that through the week, and that was through Judge Weaver's program. That was weekdays, and there was, you know, probably 7 or 8 guys out there on Highway 5 picking up trash. So, and I know they do it in other counties, so they have, like I said, the drug court program that she has started is being mimicked throughout the United States. You know, people are watching her program and doing, she takes it seriously. I don't think we are. She's on the phone. Well, we're under contract to sit on the but please talk to me before you make your decisions. I wasn't even aware of it. Thank you. Okay. So do you want to look at tabling it?
You know, when we came up with this before, it looked at, maybe the city have their own probation department, and that, the company that we're using now, Rarical, whatever, they would retain the, probationers that they're handling right now. And then at that time, they would handle whatever's under their, working for the city. And then if we started our own, and this would probably be the same situation with the county, any new people going under probation would come under the new form, the county or whatever.
You're right. Since Barbie said that, why don't we go ahead and bring her into the meeting and just, let's talk about it, so it's, in case somebody else has got a question. I mean, is there a problem with that? Let's just go ahead and talk about it. I'll give you the short version. Judge Weaver has let us use some of her probation people. She came and presented basically the same thing, the same fee. The work would, there would be somebody that worked with those probationers that kind of gave them a schedule, gave them the duties, made sure they followed up with it. It would take that responsibility off of us, which is something Sentinel doesn't do. That's actually done by city employees. They could work Sunday through Saturday. I mean, there's not, you know, the person, Larry Clement came when they did a little work in town, did, you know, some plants and stuff. He came on Saturdays and Sundays for them to be able to do the work. But she would, it wouldn't be Larry that would be assigned to it. It would be somebody new that they would hire. You would have support from Lori and her group. The probationers could go into their office if you chose, or they could come into this office. So she was very, very flexible, I thought. I don't think she had any major demands. I think she was very accommodating and willing to meet the needs. It was, you know, she wanted to offer the service, wanted to offer a good service. You know, I felt like she wanted to take us a step above what we have. I don't know if everybody else got that feeling, but, you know, she let us know that she was willing to hire somebody to manage it. And I thought that was a very important piece of it, is the community service part. It's not really changing your job duties. You would just be working with them instead of Sentinel, I guess.
The only question, I guess, concern that I have is the Sentinel, they're gonna keep
$5,000 worth.
That's true, we know that. It started with you.
if somebody came to my first meeting. We've got 4 years of probation. So I'm gonna go with 2 of them for the next how many years?
Bob Green went down and got some of that fee for his chickens.
Well, I don't think it would really interfere with that. That would still, and you know, they might even help with managing that piece of it, just because they're gonna have somebody doing it anyway. I don't know, that's a good question for her. But otherwise, we just continue with those people as we have and start with the new ones.
When I came down here to complain, she said,
I do know
board of
at
directors or something.
one point in time,
If I'd have known
I'm
that,
not
I'd
even
have
gonna
called
go
you.
there. I don't remember exactly. There was an issue.
They ought to just open the whole damn thing up.
I think John was the one didn't want to change at that point, but I don't remember.
I do remember they can't.
Johnny didn't want to change. Johnny wanted us to do our own probation. That's what it was, and that was an expensive process. And that was going to take another officer, I believe, and that was, so, and this way, we're not bearing any of the cost. We don't get the $44, I believe. We don't get it now, we won't get it then. That will go to Judge Weaver's group. And so we're not losing anything, we stand to gain something. Does that help? We don't make Barbie unhappy.
The landowners go right up to the railroad right away.
I don't.
Would you like for us to table and give you a chance to talk with Judge Weaver and set them?
Some of that, I try to get through some of that thicket down in my.
Why don't you call Lori Clayton and have a meeting with her and just prove it? Yeah, I think they both be happy to answer any questions. And I'll call and let them know that you're gonna call them. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Barbie. Okay.
Make
Do
a
I
motion we table this until, next Tuesday.
do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor? GMA lease purchase agreement. I just got a chance to look at this.
What that is, at the last monthly meeting, y'all approved for us to purchase, I think it was 4 vehicles for the police department, and at the time, we had a quote from Ford Motor Credit. Their interest rate was 5.45%, and you asked, y'all went ahead and approved it then, but then you asked if we would look for another place that had a lower interest rate. We went to Georgia Municipal Association. They've got a lease purchase plan that has an interest rate of 3.01. So we talked to the guy at GMA, and to go into this lease purchase, we need for the council to make a motion and approve us going into this lease with them. They need a copy of the minutes showing where you approved us going into the lease purchase with GMA.
The other nice thing about doing this, I know I asked you to do it because I remembered somebody had 3% interest, but if we have to buy a tractor, if we have to buy a piece of equipment, it can be done through GMA, where the Ford was pretty much the items that we purchased at the Ford place. If we bought a Dodge, we had to go through another lease company. So this will set us up for a lease company as the guys need equipment that maybe we can't afford. As Mr. Ryan said, we've got to lease it. We're already set up and we're in place and we can purchase it, whether it's Masons or anybody else. So, and it saved us 2% interest, or a little over 2%. So, anybody else have a question about that? So,
I'll make the motion, we approve the lease with GMA on the lease vehicles.
okay, do I have a second? All in favor? New business, wow, I thought it was going to take us this long to get to that. These meetings get longer and longer. Tim and Shannon, thank you for waiting on us.
I just have a few items to go over. The first one's about personnel. I don't know if everyone's aware, but Bill Patterson has turned in his notice. He's going to be retiring at the first of the year.